3-10. So I'm doing another little video, a bit more light-hearted than last time, and I've decided to do one on what football was like in primary school. So I get asked lots of times about what's the differences in all walks of life, but football was certainly very different. I was always good at sport and played football, and playing for the school football team did have its perks. But if you look at the thumbnail, it was quite dangerous when you think about it, some of the things that we had to do. There's a picture there of the football boots, and I might show it during the video as well. But they're actually thick leather things, and the toe caps, you'd think they were made of steel because you were never going to crush them or anything like that. And the studs were made of wood, and you actually nailed them in. So playing for the school team, one of the perks was getting free studs. So when your studs wore out, you got your next 12, but it was up to you then to nail them in. And what you had to be careful of, there was no protrusions on the inside of the boot. So you take the insole out, take out the old studs, and it was like a flipping military operation doing it, pulling out the nails and things like that. And then you had to nail in the wooden ones that you'd been given to by the school. So I used to nail them in from the stud going into the boot. So you then had to hit the nail somehow. So you couldn't really do it with a hammer because it's inside of your shoe. So it's more like a little chisel to flatten the nail that had come through the sole of your shoe, of the football boot. So you do that and it'd take ages, and sometimes you'd get it wrong where your nails shot off in a different direction and things like that. But as I say, it was a perk for playing for the school football team. So you had to be really careful that you didn't damage your foot, otherwise you'd end up with a nail into the sole of your foot. So as times changed, they actually brought in the rubber studs. Well, that was basically a rubber stud on a square piece of rubber, and on each corner was the hole for you to put the nail in. So we're still in the phase of using nails. But anyway, we just got on with it, you know. But when you were out and playing football, you felt as though you were on some Dutch clogs or something like that, because the football pitch we actually played on. So this is another danger. It was actually solid, and it was coated with black ash. So if people think it's a tough life nowadays where you're on a sand-covered AstroTurf and you get your grazes and infections because of that, this was black ash. So to be honest, you didn't see many slide tackles, and that included adult football on a Sunday as well. You couldn't make it up, so you had these boots that you felt about 6 inches taller than normal because of the wooden studs and the thickness of the sole and the weight of the boot and all that sort of thing. You just got on with it. You didn't know any different, because all the star footballers of the day, they were wearing similar type boots. And the other thing was, I love football, so I was playing for the school team even in the year early, so it'd be called Junior Year 3, which is the equivalent to Year 5 nowadays. And then when I moved into the Junior Year 4, which is equivalent to Year 6, I was actually captain of the football team, captain of the cricket team, things like that. But one of the roles of being captain of the football team is my responsibility to make sure the 2 footballs were always bumped up and ready for action, whether it's school games, school practice, or the actual games against other schools. Well, what was involved with that? The old leather football was made up of all these different leather panels, and can't walk any further on this path, by the way, it's absolutely flooded. Never get to the other end there, but it's nice being next to the water anyway. So yeah, these things used what was called a lacer. So you had this little handled implement. You had to unlace the ball first, and it had a bladder on the inside with a tube, which is where you inserted the pump. So that had to be tied up. So your next job was to untie the tube bit where you put the pump it up, and then you just pump it the hardest you could, because you knew you were going to lose some air out of the ball as you folded over this tube and got your mate to tie it as fast as possible. So by the time you'd done that, you took this tube in, so it's been folded double, it's been laced to keep it airtight. You took it back into the leather casing, and by the way, that's how the term casey came about, because it was a leather casing. And you then had to lace it up using the lacer. So altogether you had this like round ball, rock hard, And you also had the bulge, where the bladder's entrance had been folded over, tied with string, tucked in, and then it was laced up, so you had the actual lace then as well on top. So this is where the danger came with that. It was when you were heading the ball. So it's pot luck if you're going to head the ball where the lace was. So it's a bit of hit and miss, but if you hit that on your forehead, I am not kidding you, that was really painful. So you had the pitch black ash, so your knees going to get damaged if you did any sort of tackle where you landed on the ground. And you had the boots, which you're jumping about in. As I say, you felt about 6'6" wearing them. Just forgive the sun because I'm walking right into it now. So we had the ball, which was a danger to head. It was rock solid, so when you come to kick it, it was like kicking a rock. And then you had the boots with the studs, so you had to make sure that you didn't get hurt when you were nailing them in. And we just got on with it. So the kids nowadays, the big difference is they've got lightweight leathers, thin leathers. But they are expensive stuff. They don't protect the ankles at all, you know. A lot of money spent on football boots for children, that's for sure. But the other thing, talking about protection, is like shin pads. I'm not saying I did it, but some kids do, because if they didn't have shin pads, which were massive bulky things in anyway, with steel rods in and things like that, some people did use folded up newspaper. So the shin pads were actually huge. They're no comparison to what people have today. I don't even know why they bother wearing them today, especially the pro footballers, because the shin pad, it's no different than a thumb plaster really. I don't even know what protection it gives. So I have to think football's changed in so much as there's no slide tackles going on anymore. You get penalised for everything, so they're not really going to get kicked on the shins, you know. They just dive about footballers and hold the face when they've just been shoulder barged and things like that, you know. Times are different like that. It was a lot tougher, but nobody thought it was a foul or things like that. You just got on with it. So yeah, things are very different as a child. So primary school, that's my vivid memories, getting free studs for representing the school football team. They were wooden studs, nails, and then we got a bit classier when I was in what is currently called year 6, junior 4 in them days. We got the rubber studs, but you still had to nail them in. So with the old-fashioned boots, the leather footballs, which we called cases, which were rock hard, you had the pitch we played on, which was a nightmare, this black ash surface. And then the shin pads, which was like carrying around Roman armour plating shin pads of some sort, you know. So yeah, completely different. The world's a lot softer with the football, and the footballers, I should say. The equipment's a lot different, everything's lightweight. It's like the boots, the leather's as thin as paper. Moulded soles, completely different. Shin pads that are not worth wearing. Even if you're playing on an all-weather pitch, it's going to be a 4G, 5G with the rubber pellets in. There's not much going to happen there, but you don't see many good solid sliding tackles anymore. So those infections that we used to get on the knee, whether it's from the black ash later in years, the sand, and even with pellets it can happen. If you graze your knee and you get the pellets in, you could get some sort of an infection, you know. So yeah, in my day, primary school, all those years ago, so we're talking late 50s, early 60s, completely different. Kids don't know how to look at the art today. You know, they turn up for the junior team and they've got all the kit on, wearing tracksuits and things like that. I remember after the game, you'd go home still wearing your kit, and you'd have your football boots tied by the ends of the laces, and they just hook them round your neck. And I used to always call in at the chip in. He said, "Hi Steve, how do you go on?" Well, we usually lost, so I'd say, "Oh, we lost again." And I'd go in the chippy because they always had the scratchings, which was the batter left over from the fish in the fryer, and he used to give you a big portion of that in the usual paper bag. And he knew that I liked loads of salt and vinegar on, so you'd go home feeling proud as punch with your war wounds on your head where you'd headed the ball and the lace and everything else. And yeah, you just loved it. It was a simple life, and sometimes that's what's best, simple life. Anyway, I'm sorry I couldn't walk all the way around this mini lake, but it's a beautiful location, no doubt, isn't it? Anyway, I'll chat to you again. See ya.